As it turns out, the leaks about Trespasser last season were completely true. And here we are, the Trespasser is out in the form of the featured exotic weapon on the Season of the Haunted Battle Pass. It also has a Catalyst quest available at the Gunsmith, but banging out Catalyst quests early in the season, it's a real slogfest. So I went ahead and I did it, and I spent some time with my fully masterworked Trespasser in PvP, and I've got a pretty decent understanding of the weapon and what it's capable of at this point. I also have some thoughts to share about the Trespasser in comparison to other sidearms. So let's get to it, and we'll give this thing a full review and whether or not we recommend it, right? The Trespasser. It is a 3-round burst sidearm with a 30-round magazine. It fires at 491 rounds per minute with an impact value of 75. If that sounds familiar, that's because it's the same as the Peace Bond legendary Iron Banner sidearm, which is an exceptional sidearm. Very good sidearm. On paper, the Trespasser is fantastic. It has a perfectly vertical recoil direction of 100. It's got 90 stability, which is very important for any burst fire weapons, obviously, because stability is good for keeping your burst in check. It's also good because stability is now directly tied to how much flinch you receive. So that's kind of a big deal, right? So 90 stability, that's really important on a weapon like this. Has a range value of 59, which is great in comparison to the Peace Bond. Peace Bond can only get up to those, it does get up to those ranges. I will say most Peace Bonds that people are using do get up to that, a similar value and range, because most people are stacking things like Rangefinder or Iron Reach rolls with, you know, your accurized rounds, your range masterwork. So if you stack all that stuff, obviously you can kit out a Peace Bond to reach those ranges and more. But at base, it's a pretty solid range value, 59 for a sidearm. The Airborne Effectiveness value is 29, which is relatively high compared to legendary alternatives, but it is still decisively lower than, like, Traveler's Chosen has an Airborne Effectiveness value of 35. That's fantastic. The Rat King also has more effective, has a higher value in the Airborne Effectiveness at 31. So, but overall, 29 is still pretty solid. The exotic perk on the Trespasser was pretty freaking cool. It's pretty cool. So whenever you reload after a kill, you're granted a super burst. This, if you're a Destiny veteran, you know, and you played Destiny 1 way back in the day, I remember using Trespasser back in D1 and really having fun with the super burst. A good friend of mine, Holtzman, used to love using this sidearm back when we did trials carries back in D1 together. Had a blast with it. So whenever I use this gun, I think of my buddy Holtzman from back in the day. This burst fires 6 bullets instead of 3. The super burst does 6 bullets instead of 3. It doesn't augment the damage at all, so it's still the same amount of damage per bullet as the standard firing mode. It's similar in many regards to Desperado, I guess. Only it's a one and done thing. Okay, you dump the super burst, and after you dump that super burst, you're right back to the regular firing mode of the sidearm. The sidearm does 32 damage to the head and 20 to the body within its effective ranges. This means that you can potentially drop a player in 2 bursts if you land all headshots, or you can drop a Guardian in 1 super burst if you manage to hit all headshots as well, or, you know, if they're tagged up at all. So there is not a cooldown on Unrepentant like there is Kill Clip, for example. So anytime you get a kill and you reload the gun, you're going to have that super burst available to you. It is on a timer, though, and so you'll need to find another target within 10 seconds or the super burst will expire. Now, 10 seconds, that is a very generous timer, though. Very generous timer. There's really no map in the game where you can't get to another engagement within 10 seconds. I think people kind of underestimate that time. There's a lot you can do in 10 seconds in a game like Destiny. There's a lot that can happen in 10. There's a lot of ground you can cover in 10 seconds. So that's a very generous timer on Unrepentant. Additionally, if you get a kill with the super burst, it will automatically reload the weapon for you and give you another super burst and reset the timer. So you don't even have to do the reload animation if you get the kill with the super burst itself. So this is really fun for clearing trash mobs in PvE, but it can also come in handy in PvP as well. Now the Catalyst leans into this super burst even more. When you complete the catalyst for the Trespasser, you will be granted the perk Tunnel Vision, which is, I guess in the grand scheme of Destiny, relatively new, but it's not. If you've been playing Destiny lately, it's been around for a little while. So as a refresher, Tunnel Vision is a perk that enhances your aim assist and accuracy cone, as well as the ADS handling value of your weapon after reloading after a kill. Okay, so it's an after a kill reload perk. So anytime you get a kill and reload the weapon, you'll have Tunnel Vision and the Unrepentant Super Burst to work with. But it is a little wonky. Admittedly, this is a little wonky. Tunnel Vision is a great perk, you know, plus 20 aim assist, 20% accuracy cone reduction. So it's a huge buff. It's a huge buff. But there are some things to consider. Tunnel Vision only lasts about 6 seconds, okay? So for almost half of the time that the Super Burst is available, you won't get the benefits of the Catalyst. So the Catalyst perk will expire before the Super Burst expires. So it's kind of a bit of a weird timing there. I kind of wish that they could make the Tunnel Vision perk just on the Trespasser specifically. I wish they could make it line up with the Super Burst that's available, the full 10 seconds. So they would just go hand in hand all the time, just for consistency's sake. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there, something to keep in mind. When you reload the gun, you're getting 2 buffs, but their timers are different. And Tunnel Vision doesn't actually display a timer at all, so you're never really sure how much time you have left with it. So one thing worth mentioning as well is that whenever you get a final blow with the Unrepentant Super Burst and it automatically reloads the weapon for you, it does also go ahead and automatically apply the Tunnel Vision perk as well, even though you didn't do a reload animation. It's the automatic reload, and it automatically queues up Tunnel Vision when it reloads your gun for you. This works perfectly in PvE, but for some reason, I don't know if it's tied to latency or lag or the peer-to-peer system in PvP, but sometimes it chose not to work in PvP. Okay, I don't know why. Sometimes you'll get a final blow with Unrepentant, and it'll automatically reload the gun for you, but it won't refresh the Tunnel Vision perk. It'll just time out as if it just continued the timer from before the automatic reload, and it'll expire way sooner than it's supposed to. It doesn't always do that, but it pointedly did happen a few times while I was working on this gameplay, and I just noticed it while reviewing the footage. I was like, that's really peculiar. So something to bear in mind. So with all of these things in mind, how do you feel about the Trespasser overall in PvP? You know, what's the verdict? How does it stack up? I'll give you my thoughts. I think the Trespasser is a really fun and effective weapon for 6v6 modes. It's fun in a target-rich environment where Unrepentant can be activated a lot and used frequently. I don't think it'll see a lot of usage in Trials modes, but you know, it's not the strongest straight-up dueler in the game, and so people will default towards other more reliable options in that environment. But the gun has a high fun factor, and I'd say it's probably comfortably a B+ weapon in PvP. So not bad at all. It's not S tier. It's most likely not quite an A tier, but I guess you could argue for maybe an A-, I suppose. But personally, I'm pretty hard on my sidearms because I know what they're capable of, so I tend to grade them a little more harshly. So I personally give this a B+. Absolutely worth using. B+ is not bad at all. Anything that's a B+, I'd say you should definitely take it for a spin. It's seriously fun and full of character. But I will admit that the Super Burst is somewhat unwieldy against opponents that are very close to you and actively moving. So unless your ADS modifier is set pretty high and twitchy, it may be easy to miss, you know, some half of your burst, sometimes maybe trying to track all that movement during the burst discharge. So, but otherwise, very fun gun. Great range for a sidearm as well. So how you feeling about Trespasser so far? Have you taken it for a spin yet? And if so, how did you like it? Feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Drop a like on the video only if you enjoyed it. I welcome you to hit the subscribe button as well to see more Destiny content from me. And thanks so much for your support. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.